Hey everyone, welcome to the Sasquatch Outpost podcast. I'm your host, Jim Myers. Thank you for subscribing, for hitting the bell. That always helps us, and we're growing by leaps and bounds here at the Untold Radio Network. And we're on our third thunderstorm of the day. It's rolling through with lightning and thunder. So if I disappear or if I freeze, you'll know why. And I will get back on as soon as I can. But hopefully that's not going to happen. I wish we could do a lightning prevention something in my yard or something, but nothing is working. Even with a battery backup and surge suppressor, it doesn't help. So hopefully we're not going to get cut off, but you never know with these thunderstorms. So hey, and the rain's been phenomenal. I mean, I was talking to Dave Pilates today, and up in Montana, they're kind of in a drought, and he was out fishing a few days ago, and the river is at an all-time low. And I asked him why, and he said that they're just not getting any rain. I said, man, we should send some up to you guys because we got more than we can handle. They had flash floods in Colorado Springs last night and warning people to get to higher ground. It was crazy. But, hey, we got our second quarter results back. And with YouTube and all the podcasts that we're on, we had 26,500 views of the Sasquatch Outpost podcast. Woo-hoo! Thank you guys. Thank you guys for helping us grow and getting the word out. That average is about 2,200 per podcast. And I'm really excited that we're growing so much. That's awesome. And the more that you can encourage other people to subscribe and sign up and follow us, the better we will do. Interesting things come up recently. We got an email from a guy who's a location scout for the Colorado Lottery, and they're looking for a location to do a commercial. And they're considering our store as one location because they want to do this commercial about a retail establishment that goes back to nature. And obviously our store looks like that already. They don't have to do anything. We've already got a whole forest in there. So he's going to let us know soon if that's something that they're going to do. If they do it, they will have to do it at night, and they will film all night, and they have lights that will make the building look like daytime. I don't know how they do that. My neighbors are going to be real excited about that. If we do that all night long, we'll see if they choose our location, but that'll be a lot of fun. I don't know that people would be able to tell hey, Patricia, thank you for that super sticker. I don't know that people would be able to tell that it's our store because they want it to be a generic store. They don't want it to be the Sasquatch Outpost, but we'll see. We should know soon. And I just got my decals on my truck. I wanted to show you guys my badass truck here. I call it the Beast. And so we've got the fire marks, got the Sasquatch Outpost logo on the back end. We got Rabbit Hole Adventures, and I just think it looks really cool. Now people are going to be able to say, man, I saw you downtown, or I saw you somewhere, because there's no mistaking this truck now. This is an awesome truck. We've got a 12,000 pound winch on the front and 3-inch lift, and I can disconnect the sway bar and do a front or rear differential connect. It's really cool. And I took it up with some friends. Well, actually, last week's podcast with Gary and his 2 kids, I took them up in this truck. We went up Twin Cones Road, up Kenosha. You go into Kenosha campground, and then you go up the mountain, and it was pouring rain, and we're going up the side of this mountain, and we're just bouncing, and I was going about half a mile an hour all the way up the mountain. And we got up to where we were trying to get to, And then we're coming down and it gets dark. And this road is just so tight. It was fun. It was great fun. But the truck did exactly what I hoped it would do. It got us up there and got us back. And actually tomorrow, I'm taking a couple out for a 3-day, 2-night expedition to Buffalo Peaks Wilderness. We'll see if it's going to be raining the whole time or not, but hopefully we get some Sasquatch action. And this is I think it's the last truck camping trip that I'll be doing of the summer. I've got one more horseback trip coming up in about 3 weeks with Jill. And then I think we got some night hikes and a few cave talks. And this summer is going by way too fast. This is really speeding by. But we've had awesome business at the Sasquatch Outpost. Thank you guys for coming in and sending your friends. We're really excited. It's been a great summer. And we need the summer to be able to survive the winter. So summer's been really good for us. And I've got to start working on the new space in the museum for our new movie that we'll be showing from Gary, the Colorado 1962 Bigfoot footage of from Colorado. And I've got a couple of video experts in mind that I'm going to have to take a look at it and see what they think. But I think it's the Sasquatch. That's all that matters. That's what I think, because I'm the only one that matters. So no, I'm just kidding. But in the museum, we're gonna put all the equipment that Gary brought, the movie camera and the backpack that his dad built and wore, and all the things that he gave us, which was awesome. I really appreciated Gary doing that and bringing all of it and bringing his 2 kids, and we had great fun. So my guest this evening is Ron Meyer. Ron's a film producer. I've known Ron since about, I think, 2015 when he asked me if I would be in the documentary called Chasing Bigfoot, The Quest for Truth. Some of you may have seen that. You can see it on Amazon, on YouTube. You can see it lots of places. It's been out for quite a while. But interesting little detail is because of that expedition, that's when his daughter Anna, who was helping him produce that film, met her husband Alan Megargle, and they got married a couple years later. But it was on that project that they met, and that's fun. I've gotten to know both of them very well, and great friends. And Alan and I just did the Bigfoot Adventure Weekend last weekend, which was a lot of fun. So Ron has done a lot of things. Actually, he's about a year ago he produced a show called Becoming Evil: Serial Killers of the Old West, which is really interesting because I told Ron I've never thought about these outlaws and gunslingers as being serial killers, but by today's definition, that's what they were. And I think I need to watch that film to see what his take was on that. He's done feature films. He's a published author on the topic of paleontology. He's done TV shows for public TV. Ron is a jack of all trades when it comes to films and TV and documentaries, and I am excited to have him with us tonight. So let's welcome Ron Meyer. Hey, Ron.
Hey, Jim.
Thanks for being with us this evening.
Guess what we got going around here? Monsoon weather.
Monsoon weather. That's right. It's exactly what we got. And it's about the right timing, but usually it doesn't happen till a little bit later in August, September, but we're getting it now.
Yeah, there's thunder rumbling in the background here.
Oh, you too.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm hoping that I get a little respite while we're out camping because I don't like being in a tent and having it pouring rain on me. So, Ron, we've known each other since about 2015. Isn't that what we figured out?
Yeah, that's about right. I actually went on my first Bigfoot expedition with you.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was your first one.
I did many since.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That was the first one, I believe, where we actually went out at night, and I got to see what it was like for somebody who was doing Bigfoot research, and then of course you're also responsible for pushing me into this area of the paranormal in a way I hadn't ever expected to be. Because
You're welcome.
I don't know if you remember this, but when I did the interview with you, I mean, I interviewed a lot of people and ran around with a lot of people in the Bigfoot community, and I never doubted for a moment that they didn't have some sort of experience, whether it was a felt sense, moonshine, not moonshine, eye shine,
I shine, yeah.
wood knives, screams, few visual sightings, that they weren't lying. But I could never accept that this was a creature who was part of our lineage of life here on the planet. It just seemed impossible to me, and so I was quite confused by it all. How this could be such a prevalent thing and based
Yeah.
on something that seemed to be impossible. And then you said in the interview you think that it's something paraphysical, and that
I'm
was
surprised that
and
even
that,
that
and
far
that
back. I'm
huh?
surprised I thought that.
Oh yeah, that was probably the last thing you said. Maybe you were scared to say it. I don't even know if I used it in chasing Bigfoot or not, but it triggered this a flow of synchronicities that said I got to figure that out, because if they're not flesh and blood creatures, they got to be some form of alien, something or other, something that was alien that I wanted to investigate, and that led me to delve back into what's the classic alien UFO community that I had been a part of earlier on, but had
Yeah.
followed up on. So I made a movie called The Bigfoot Alien Connection Revealed, and it's gone viral. It's got over 4,400,000 on YouTube, and an equal number across other streaming platforms. And it's
And I think we're in that one too, aren't we? I
oh
believe.
yeah, you're in everything.
Well, that very first time when we went out, I've got a clip of that your camera guy Paul provided. So let's just keep us on the screen. Let's play that clip, and we'll talk
So
about it.
you want to set up where we went and why we went?
Yeah. So we Ron wanted to know what it was like to go out in the woods and look for Sasquatch. So I took him out on the Colorado Trail with Alan, and was Anna with us? I can't remember.
Anna was with us, and at that point, Anna hadn't met Alan yet.
But Alan came, didn't he, as the videographer?
No, that was Kenny. He was another. He was
Okay.
somebody who worked for me for a period of time as a
Okay.
cameraman. And
So
you had a friend there. I can't quite remember. He had white hair.
it was John Andrews, and so we went out on the Colorado Trail and hiked in a little ways, and we were kind of sitting and being quiet, and I decided I would try a tree knock and see what happens, and that's where this clip starts.
We reached camp and set up a recorder that would run through the night and did a few tree knocks.
These are normally for hunting. They're walkers earphones, and they each have an amplifier, so they amplify the sound. It's amazing how loud it is. Did you hear that? That could have been a reply. Let me try again. So we knocked, we got a reply. We knocked again, we got another reply. One knock each time. Long distance. That's good.
So that you couldn't hear it very well on that recording, but
We could hear it very well in person, and you can
we
see on the
heard it very
waveform
well.
spike.
Yeah, we heard it very well, and it was just, I think it was just the audio that we had to listen to was not. Let me change this layout. There we go.
It was
The audio was not great, but we all heard it both times.
and we could replay it and hear it quite clearly, but
Yeah,
but as you could see, there was the spike from it on the
right.
waveform of the audio background. So that was quite interesting to me. How many times have you done that? That good and that clear?
Getting a reply like that,
Yeah.
probably 3 other times in all the years since then. So that was unusual to have two knock, have a reply, knock, have a reply. And they weren't knocking until we knocked. And so, in answer to that question that just was popped up, the documentary was called Chasing Bigfoot, The Quest for Truth. It's a 4-part documentary. I think
It's a series.
series, and the Outpost, myself or the Outpost appeared, I think, in 3 of them. But yeah, that was exciting. I think that may have been the first documentary I was ever part of, Ron, to be honest.
Yeah. So for me, that was kind of a calling card, say,
Yeah.
because everywhere else I went, not much happened. I mean, people would show me footprints but it was quite impressive that actually happened, and we were able to record it on film. Subsequently, I've gotten tons of stuff. I've actually had a situation where we were filming at Broadcamp Crystal Mine a couple of years back for another series we did, Paranormal Highway, where everybody, 4 people, were doing wood knocks back and forth and hearing them, talking about them, pointing to them. When I got back and looked at the footage, listened to the footage, there was no wood knocks at all.
Oh, really?
So there's a little bit of a trickster aspect to all this that says, well, maybe you ought to think a little differently about what's going on.
So you could hear them at the time you were filming, but they never showed up on the recording.
I could hear them talking about it. Did you hear that? Oh, yeah, I heard it, Oh, there's another one. Came from over there. We haven't been around. This was Alan, an experienced Bigfooters. And then you get back in the studio, and it's like they hadn't heard a darn thing.
Yeah, that's
It's
interesting.
pretty typical if you get out there with the camera and start.
It is typical. Well, we talked about, we had the Bigfoot Adventure weekend. Was it last weekend? Yeah.
No, it was 1 weekend ago.
1 weekend ago. And yeah, not last weekend, but the weekend before. And we talked about how we found a little boy there, found a track in the campsite. And it was a very clear track, 17 inches long, maybe a day or 2 before we got there. And then the last night, I don't know if I told you this, Ron, the last night we took everyone out. We came back to camp, and we were sitting around kind of the picnic table talking, maybe 11:30 at night. So I walked outside the campsite, looked up the hill, and now I've seen this enough times to know what it is. There was a Sasquatch at the top of the hill, glowing eyes looking down on us. And I thought, why do I bother taking people 30 minutes away and walk through the woods for 3 hours when they're right here, And so that was frustrating, but interesting at the same time. So you just never know. They're always up to something. So now you and Alan, and I'm not sure who else went with you. You guys did was that a question? I didn't see that, Steph, that you just put up, or was that a comment? High strangeness. Yes, absolutely. There was, you guys went to Bradshaw Ranch in Arizona, correct? Is that where it is?
Yes, it is right outside of Sedona.
And so tell us about what happened there. You guys had several things happen on kind of on the high strangeness side of things. And then
Way high
we have
strange.
something we can show people if they weren't here when Alan was on my show. We'll show them the same picture. But tell us about what happened there.
Well, Bradshaw Ranch was a working ranch for a long time. It was a movie set. Elvis Presley actually made a film there along with John Wayne.
Interesting.
And into the 90s, the husband and the son had kind of passed away, and the son had married a woman named Linda Bradshaw, and she was like the last remaining person on the ranch in the ranch house. And in the 90s, she started seeing strange things going on. And she contacted a researcher named Tom Dongo, who's subsequently written some books. He had experiences. And back then, they didn't have the technology we have. So mostly what they captured were still photos, mainly at night, of orbs and other strange light phenomena and a few humanoid type these. And then in 2003, I believe, the federal government decided to buy the property.
Any idea why?
It was the energy department, and they said they were studying climate change on native species, which is
Sure.
on a ranch. You know how many native species remain after it's been grazed by cattle and horses, forever.
Okay.
And so they locked it up pretty tight for a while. And there were a lot of rumors that weird stuff was going on with military and all that from the locals. And then recently they kind of abandoned everything, and it's sort of wide open right now. It's open to anybody.
Interesting.
Pretty much. It's owned and managed by the Forest Service. It's part of their it's managed by the Forest Service as much
But
as
you guys didn't need permission to get in there when you went.
It's just Forest Service property in some sense.
Yeah.
And there are three structures that are prominent. One is the original adobe house, which is like Skinwalker Ranch, the homestead, the original homestead. And there's the ranch house, which is quite large and accommodated a lot of people, and they shot movies in there. And then there's the windmill, and they form a triangle. And it's at one point last fall, I just had to go to Bradshaw Ranch, and it was one of these things that just one synchronicity after another got me there, and I was there in 2.5 weeks after I had the first idea. And there's a gentleman out there who's been researching it, a student of Tom Dongo. He's old and doesn't go out there much anymore, if at all. And contacted him, and he agreed to take us out there. And there's this place, which I call the space of high strangeness, which is right between those three structures I just described. And we set up our equipment, and we're able to, at this place where everybody said the weird stuff is going on. And CJ, CJ was part of this story. She's one of your people for a while.
Yeah.
And she went there on her own before we got there, and had an experience at this space of high strangeness where she almost passed out. And
she saw a Bigfoot, didn't she? I believe she did.
She did.
Yeah.
Off in the distance.
Yeah.
Or something that looked like it. But there's so many footprints out there, it's unbelievable, of all kinds. It's like a menagerie of footprints, some of which could be Bigfoot, some of them have two toes. It's just crazy with footprints. But anyhow, at this space, which was everybody identified as the weirdest place on the whole ranch, Alan got out his tri-field meter and registered in huge magnetic fluctuations. And they were right at the spot where CJ had her nauseated experience, and the other people said this is the place where if you walk there, weird stuff happens to you. And then we got out our thermal, and at the spot. So if you took his tri-field meter, which measures magnetic fluctuations, it wasn't at the ground. It was a space up above, probably about 6-7 feet above the ground. And with our thermal, oh, hang on a second. I just lost my. Above the ground, we could see an intense cold spot. It was about 60 degrees. And inside that was a cold spot of about 20 degrees. It was below freezing anyhow.
Really, just that far above the ground.
Yeah. And inside was a little white, red hot dot dancing around inside that spot. And which would indicate a portal. Have you interviewed Simeon Hine?
No.
He's a guy who's close to all this technology that's going on. He thinks that that's the technology everybody wants. That's some form of either coherent plasma or coherent dark matter or coherent fifth state of that's the whole opening business that opens a portal. And then later on we set up our trail cam on the spot, and right over that area was a dark triangle. You could see through it, but it was sitting right on top, perfect triangle, sitting over that space of high strangeness. It was on every shot we took, which was a lot of them because we're always walking around there at night. Only at night would it show up, and
But you could see it even though it was translucent.
you could see it clearly. There's tons of images of it that we have, and it's not a camera glitch. You don't get triangular
Right.
camera glitches. Plus, we took and tried it, after, and it's not producing anything like that. So the thought is that that's actually the portal or interdimensional opening, and that's all documented on film and data. And then at 2 times, massive amounts of light phenomena poured out of that structure, and then right before we left, poured back into the structure. So how's that for some weird stuff at one little place?
So the cabin, the building where Alan saw the Sasquatch, was that part of that triangle?
It was, so that would be in the original homestead house. He was inside
Okay.
there, and
We've got an image of that. Some of you may have seen it, but we'll throw it back up again. So you can't see it very well. The kind of horizontal line is the roof, is the eave of that cabin. And there's high grass and bushes. And to the left is this figure that's kind of hunched over, bluish black with glowing eyes. And that's not the picture that Alan took, but he saw the same thing, right?
absolutely. And other people have seen that, what they call the Bigfoot out there. It's called, what is it? It's got a name that people do give. I can't quite remember. Oh, Big Girl. They call it Big Girl.
So it's a female.
They think it is.
Interesting. Okay.
So he actually witnessed it continuously for, I would say, a good 2 minutes. And then what was fascinating is that the cameraman was looking at Alan when he's looking at it. He didn't speak. He was in a transfixed state. What happens, sometimes when these things show up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was just transfixed. He was just looking at it and blinking his eyes and trying to convince himself he was seeing what he wanted to see for 6 years, And but then I had him tell what he saw, and he was standing there, and we were filming him as he was describing it, sort of pointing out the window. And at an adjacent window, he saw it out the window of one of the. It was out the window. It was on the outside of the building. Outside of another window, when I was filming him, a light showed up out of the blue and began to mimic him and as he spoke, so like he said, and then it flashed, and that light flashed at the same time. So it got in sync with him as he was retelling the story. And we carefully tried to figure out if that light could be any reflection caused by us and anything, and it wasn't. It was, again, outside the window. So that was quite an experience for Alan to have that all happen.
Well, like me, Alan has gone through a big transformation over the years in his opinion about all these things. And like me and yourself, I think we're just following the evidence that we find as we're doing this. I mean, I'm not out trying to prove a point about paranormal or anything like that. We just keep encountering it over and over and over. And so you have to either discount it as hallucinations or something, or give it credibility. You made another movie recently called The Bigfoot of Bailey, Colorado, and its Portal. About an hour long, wasn't it?
That's right.
And that's done really well. I mean, you told me the other day how many views there have been in a couple of months.
A couple 100,000.
A couple 100,000. That's not bad.
And we just got it up on Tubi. That was on YouTube, and just got it up on Amazon and Tubi, and it's going gangbusters. Each of those platforms seem to have a different audience. And whether you like commercials or don't like commercials, it
Right.
gives you different options to screen the darn thing. And I don't consider myself a Bigfoot researcher like you are, or an investigator. I've probably done I haven't come close to anything you've done, but I've gone on many with people because I'm filming.
Sure.
I've never gone out on myself or with anybody that I wasn't filming looking for Bigfoot. So, do you want me to describe what happened there?
Yeah, well, I know one interesting thing that happened during the filming of that movie was discovering a spirit tree on the property of Glen Isle Resort.
That's right.
And that tree has been the topic of a lot of interest since then.
Yes, there's something unique about it. It's a culturally modified tree, I believe, by the Ute Indians.
Ute Indians, yeah.
Which are the tribe that was, hugged the edges of the mountains. They weren't real plains warriors like the Cheyenne or the Sioux. And they were all in conflict with each other, of course. And, they went all the way around. So they were in contact with the Navajo on the southern edge, and the Blackfeet to the north, as well as the main plain ones we know. So I don't know about you, but right now everybody could do an experiment. We could open our eyes, and we can use our minds, if we want to put like a candle flame in our visual scene. Just give it a try. You can do that, Jim, can't you? You can kind of place it in there.
A candle in my mind, yeah.
Just put it in the scene that you're looking at. I'm looking at my bookshelf across from me, and I can kind of stick a candle in there, and it sort of integrates into it. So 3 times now, since I got into this paranormal stuff, I've had something like that, but much better. And that is, the first time I had something like that was I was going up to Ron Moorhead had arranged for a bunch of women to show up in the Pacific Northwest at a casino, because I needed some women accounts of Bigfoot for chasing for the Bigfoot alien connection. So he got me like 3 or 4 of them that I could interview. And on my way up there, I looked to my left, and coming down a gravel road to the main road, the 101, was a creature that was probably about twice as big as a wolf. It was kind of a combination of a mountain lion, and he was a predatory animal, and it was pure white.
It was on all fours.
On all fours. came down the road. I couldn't get over to it because it was a divider, so I couldn't cross over. It looked at me, I looked at it, and it went back and disappeared.
Hmm.
And then last summer, I was doing a thing called Ghosts of the Great Indian Wars. And so it was perfectly integrated into the world. It wasn't like the flame, which kind of is sort of, I keep losing my light on my screen here.
Oh,
Uh, there's an open space nearby, and I'm on my bike driving around. It's small, and I see a Native American, pulling a Travros. You know, the thing with that you would put your teepee and stuff on. Usually the women would pull it, or horses.
mm-hmm.
Walking through the open space, is like, oh my god, what's that? What's he doing out there? I couldn't believe it. Didn't make any sense, and I quickly turned around and went back, and it wasn't there. So the third time is when we get to that I've had this complete integration of a form into the world as it exists right now. Was we were at the Spirit Tree, on Glen Isle, and I had taken people over there and had them make contact with it, and people were having experiences and everything like that. And so finally, after everybody sort of wandered off, I'd sit down, let's you and I give it a shot. So
Just the two of you, yeah.
just the two of us. So we closed our eyes, and I sat there for a while, and nothing was happening. So Alan was on my left side. Oh, the mirror image drives me crazy on this, but I looked over, and behind him was a perfect shape, shadow shape, reddish in color, probably a foot and a half taller than Alan, standing right behind him. Perfect shape of a classic Bigfoot. And I don't know, when you have these experiences, it takes my brain a while to process it, and I question. And then I noticed that Alan himself was sort of waffling in and out of existence, kind of like on Star Trek when they would get in the transporter, and you kind of see him.
Yeah, kinda go,
Yeah, but the Bigfoot was perfectly solid but shadowy. I couldn't see facial features. And then I said to Alan, there's a creature behind you. And he said, I know, I've been feeling it. And then he describes, his own experience, which is slightly different. He felt like he was transported somewhere, but he felt it walk up behind him and everything, which is his main way of experiencing Bigfoot up until the point he saw the one in Bradshaw Ranch. So Jim?
I was over at Glen Isle a couple nights ago for just looking for something, and it was just getting dark. So I said to Daphne, "Do you mind if I go over and stand by this tree for a minute?" So she stayed in the car, and I walked over to the same tree and put my hands on it just to see, what would happen. You and I talked about it before I went over there. And the other thing that you suggested I've now done, but I put my hands on the tree, and I'm standing there in the dark, and both my hands inside on my palms got really warm when I was standing there against the tree. Now, I didn't have any imagery or anything like that, but I thought, okay, I could be imagining this, but I don't think I am, because both my hands got very warm just against that tree, and it wasn't a particularly warm evening. So there's something about that tree. I don't understand it, but as you say, the Utes used these trees, and there's another one further up on the property at Glen Isle. They use them as a place of worship, I guess,
and medicine.
And medicine.
Yeah. Which we won't talk about too much.
Right. But it was, I just found it fascinating how many people, each year when we do the Bigfoot Adventure Weekend, Ron will lead a little Saturday evening after dinner before we go out for our night hike. Ron will lead a little, just kind of a group interaction about meditation, what meditation is, how you can do it, why would we want to do that before we go out looking for Bigfoot. And every year, most of the group has sat in on that, and from all different backgrounds. And then we'll go over to the tree and to see who wants to, interact with this tree, which sounds like a loony idea, but most of the group walks over there. And it's amazing how many people have described having something happen when they interacted with that tree. So I'm
When you
convinced
felt
there's
did
something
you
there.
feel any push at all at the same time?
Any what?
Like a push, a vibration coming from the tree. That's
No,
reported by a number of people I talked to.
no. Here's my issue. When I was there and I'm standing there with my hands on the tree and there's cars coming in and out of Glen Isle, I get too self-conscious about what are these people going to think about me standing here with my hands on the tree. I need to forget about that and not worry about it, or go over there later when there's no cars going in and out and just spend time there, just because I'm curious. I'm curious about what would happen, what I might encounter, if I might encounter a Bigfoot there. I also want to go back up where we were camping on the property and spend some time by myself, because I'm absolutely confident that Bigfoot comes down to that property from the woods up behind. And so, because we found the track, we saw the eyes, we know they're around. So I think combining interacting with the tree and then trying to interact with Sasquatch could be a interesting, maybe a bit creepy, but interesting experience.
The idea is one has to open up to these unusual possibilities.
Yeah.
And you may be struck by them, then and they'll open you up.
Yeah.
And to some extent, I think there's some truth to this, that people have psychic knots that are limiting them in their ability to get closer to the truth of who they are,
Mm-hmm.
what life is about. And these experiences can kind of free up those knots.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I've certainly changed and grown in my views about Sasquatch and what they are. And you and I were talking about this earlier today. Yeah, what was the question you said people ask about ghosts that you wanted to relate to Sasquatch?
So there's a movement underfoot to unify all these desperate paranormal investigations in communities. Like when they became big, after World War II, they shifted into UFOs and ghosts on one side, and there was communities and people, and then there was mediumship and cryptids,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's the meditators, the Eastern religions.
Right.
And they all form their own little communities, and they don't talk to each other by and large. And that's a mistake, because I think they're all dealing at some deep level with the same phenomenon that's going on. And so recently, because Alan's doing this film on the doll and the door that was at Kenny, another Bigfooter he discovered, that I've talked to a number of these psychic sensitives who specialize in this area in terms of ghosts. Some of the top ones and all, like the best known ones that are really successful at communicating. And one of the questions there's two questions. One is are these voices that come through in the apparitions, are they always from dead people? And the consensus is growing, no, they don't have to be. It can be from another source. Is it easy for them to materialize and show up as a voice or as an apparition? No, it's not easy. That's the sense. The other question they ask, if we're in a haunted house and people hear voices, with their equipment or having apparitions, and then go away, do the ghosts linger in the house? Or do you need a person present for them to show up? And I think we're at the stage right now that when we get to cryptids, we have to ask that same question. Because if there's some unusual life form, that's the only way I can describe it, they're probably not like us. We only know of one life form, and that's us. We all come from a common lineage. I'm into paleontology, You can trace everything that's alive or ever been alive back to one common ancestor. How that came about, there's no agreement.
Hmm.
So with one example, there's no way of defining what life is. There's no acceptable definition of life. You need to have at least 2 or 3 examples to see what they might all have in common and are important to being a life form. So we're kind of stuck with, if these experiences with Bigfoot are real and they're not they're not part of our lineage of life on this planet, are they here all the time? And do they
Are they here all the
follow
time, or are they only there when we're out there? Is that the
only there
question?
when we're out there? And how could they? I think there's growing speculation how they can show up, how they can
Right.
materialize. That at Bradshaw Ranch, part of the investigation is that they're using energy from the surroundings to materialize. They need that to because it's not easy for them to appear in our domain. It's like there's the interdimensional aspect is that there's two realities emerging briefly with different physical constants, and then something can come through. But if they want to show up in a particular way, they need a jolt of energy, which is why in ghosts and sometimes when you're doing Bigfooting, you feel cold. It's because they suck the energy from the existing surrounding to materialize. And they can only be here for a little while. So, we would have to question, their mode of living if they're alive. There are probably other ways that one could reproduce besides our ways of reproducing, which is cell division at the lower levels and sex at the at the higher levels. So there may not be anything like juveniles or anything like that relates to life here, except that they can control matter in a particular way and build stuff, which is what we basically do from the beginning to right now. And they use information to do that, but there's no real physics of information yet. Although there's some people now getting into the idea that information plays a big role in all this. And when I asked Travis, from Skinwalker Ranch, he said, "Yeah, that's it." And the Mormons are after the technology. He told me.
Interesting.
Technology that and stuff is going on in labs now where they're doing this on a smaller scale that's occurring in places like Skinwalker Ranch and Bradshaw Ranch. So it opens up a whole new set of mysteries that we have to kind of explore and kind of accept.
Well,
so-
you and I both know that there's a lot of Bigfoot researchers that would take everything you've just said and discount it as, bunk, as woo, if you want to call it that. And I get that, if you're experiencing Bigfoot as a researcher only as a great ape in your mind is what they are, as a great ape, and you've never encountered them in any other aspect, some of the things that you and I've experienced, or Alan, I mean, I understand that we're all trying to understand them. I'm long past trying to figure out if they're real. I mean, they'll come into the outpost, they go through the museum, and they'll come out and they'll say, "Well, keep looking. One of these days you're going to find them." I'm like, "Yeah, we found them. We know they're there. There's no question, 100%."
Absolutely.
And
for
it's
sure.
just a question of understanding them. What are they like? How do they relate to us? How do they relate to extraterrestrial? All these other questions that come up.
And it's hard to imagine. I think it's a failure of imagination on our part because we frame all our questions in terms of us. We think of what are they up to? Well, maybe they have nothing that you'd call being up to anything in the normal sense, the way we think of it. From the fact, people will say that they're tricksters.
Yeah.
All these things they're messing with us. They're having fun with us. To many other, and like I said, there are other areas where there seems to be a kind of technology that that's in play that we can approach, and maybe they're way ahead of us, and maybe they're going to share with us and been guiding us because we have some unique capabilities in terms of developing our own technology and building things. That's pretty cool, maybe to them. And
Well, it seems,
huh?
no, go ahead. Finish your thought.
So, and then of course there's the Keel's famous thing. If you start studying them, they'll start studying you.
Right.
So there's plenty of cases of the hitchhiker effect, where you
Yeah.
bring things home. So they're kind of messing with us in some way, from what I
Well,
could see.
I was out maybe at the Bigfoot weekend. I can't remember. I was gone from the house, and Daphne heard this big bonk outside, and it scared her, and she thought, well, it's probably just how houses have their knocks, and as the temperature changes outside, but it was very loud, and I said, maybe it was Sasquatch hitting the side of the building, and she thought no. But I've been waiting for that to happen. Quite honestly, I've been waiting for that to happen because I've been doing this so long, and I've heard so many other stories of them following other people home and them finding tracks in their yard or having them smack the side of the house. Or I'm expecting those kinds of things to happen. I'm surprised they haven't already. But when they're doing that, I think people become afraid and feel like it's aggression. I'm not sure that it is aggression. I think it may just be,
Hey, I'm here.
Hey,
Hi.
we're here. I'm here.
Yeah, I'm here. Hi.
Yeah, hi. And smacking the side of the house is one good way to get your attention. It gets it real fast. And
the
so,
purpose may be to awaken potentials that we deny in ourselves. I'm totally convinced that's the case. Because right now I can follow synchronicities in a way that's unbelievable.
Well, since I've met you, I've been thinking a lot more about synchronicities and how things just seem to happen. Favorable things seem to happen together or come in groups, or
it's a kind of alignment with a greater reality, is the way I would put it. The more you get aligned with that, the more these things open up for you.
Yeah, well, I don't doubt that, and I don't doubt that. Someone mentions them coming to their home after they started a gifting stump, and I think when they see us reaching out to them through gifting or some other way, I think it's not unusual that they come to our property because they're thinking, you're reaching out to me, I'll reach out to you. And we've seen it happen at gifting sites, and that's where we've had sightings around the gifting area because they know we're coming there. They kind of expect us. They know our habits. But I have no doubt in my mind that some of these things are related. Sasquatch, orbs in the woods, which, to be quite honest, I think orbs, what people are seeing as orbs, is really their eyes more often than not. And they don't associate, they don't realize that Sasquatch eyes glow in the dark. And so they'll see these things moving through the woods that may not be orbs. They may just be their eyes because they're so bright at night. But I've seen orbs as well. And so I think, I have no doubt that these things are interrelated in ways that I'm just beginning to grasp and understand, and makes me want to get out in the woods more often. Steph, you're watching this. I want to get all the ladies that work with us. I'll take all of you out in the woods at night, and you're shaking your head. No, we're not going to do that. Yeah, we're going to do that. And because you ladies need to have your own experiences that you can relate to people that come in the store when they say, so what's this all about? And you guys will have stories to tell. So I promise nothing will happen to you. That's my guarantee.
You know, a lot of women are, you know, sensitives way
Yep.
more,
Yep.
and a lot of them from early on in their life, you know, as children. And if that hasn't been squelched, they're good to be out with because they're good attractors for these things. I find. You know, when
Yeah.
we had Bradshaw, we had besides CJ, she considers herself a sensitive, as you probably know.
She is. Yeah, she is.
She brought three other women, and it wasn't all that great for them in some way. Because they
Interesting.
hadn't been to Bradshaw.
Okay. Well,
And
the next horseback trip I'm taking, two of the women who are coming are both what I would call sensitives, or even beyond that, psychic. One of them may be psychic, and I'm eager for that just because who knows what's going to happen. I mean, Sasquatch likes to interact with us based on who we are, what we're projecting out to them. And I think having a couple of women there who have had some experience with Sasquatch could very well cause them to interact with us. And so, you don't have to be someplace special. You don't have to go to some far off location. I have to go where the Forest Service lets me go, but we could go almost anywhere. And given the right circumstances and the right people, I think we could have an encounter with Sasquatch. And so that possibility is always there. And it's been 7-8 years since I took you guys out. We should do that again, Ron. A lot of water under the bridge since we went out in the woods the first time together. So
let me just put one more thought
Sure.
in here. That is,
absolutely.
I interviewed John Alexander, Colonel Alexander. He's probably the most experienced researcher, and he was the head of that program of killing goats with your mind and all that sort of stuff.
Huh.
And he was one of the early investigators of Skinwalker Ranch, and he's quite convinced that whatever it is precognitive. You know in advance what's going to happen. That's why they can show up. If you're going to drive across the road and they want to run it, they know before you show up there that they're going to do that now for you. And they're precognitive in some way. He's totally convinced of that, and I tend to believe it because he's the one person who's had all these experiences with the highest level of clearance and has trained people to do all sorts of weird crap, with their mind and potential. And everybody should ask themselves, what is your superpower? Because I think we all have one or two superpowers. So what would you say yours is?
Yeah, well, superpowers, I mean, we've all got different abilities. There's no question about that.
And a superpower, one that's normally denied by normal stories you're told about who you are and what reality is. Like mine is synchronicities.
Yeah. No, I don't doubt that at all. I don't know what mine is. Mine is, I'll have to think about that. Superpower.
You're kind of a channeler of things. Remember I told you that?
Yeah, you've told me I'm a channeler, and that's possible. But, I'm trying to understand. I do believe that there's something in me that's blocking me from understanding a lot of these things to the depth that I want to. And you and I talked, and you made a recommendation to me, which I've now followed.
You did it?
And so we'll see. We'll see what
that
happens.
knot you need to untie.
Yeah, it's a knot. Yeah, it's a knot that needs untying for sure. Because I want to understand. I really want to understand. And so if there's something in me, whether it's my background or my personality or my temperament, that's blocking me from understanding things, then I certainly want to figure out what that is and get it out of the way, because my whole goal is to understand, what is Sasquatch? Who are they? How do they relate to me? I can say for sure, Ron's superpower is looking great in the hat. Yeah, for sure. But going out in the woods now versus going out 10 years ago, totally different experience. I was so fearful 10 years ago. Now I'm not at all fearful. And I feel like, if they interact with us, we've really been blessed, and we've had something that is rare, but it's a gift. It's a gift they give us when they choose to interact with us. And
For sure.
so I'm looking for that gift and trying to, within me, encourage it, and with the people that I'm with, encourage them to have the right expectations as we go out, and see if Sasquatch chooses to gift us with an appearance of some kind. So, well, thank you, Ron, for coming on the Sasquatch Outpost podcast tonight. I really appreciate it. It's been a long time in coming.
Yeah, it's been fun, and I haven't promoted anything.
Yeah, not your next movie
or next book or anything like that. We're just chatting.
Well, let me ask you, what are you working on that we can be looking for in the coming
besides
weeks?
the Bradshaw Ranch thing, that'll be done. And we're premiering at PhenomenaCon outside of Vernal, early September.
PhenomenaCon, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's all the people from Skinwalker and Expedition Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest conference in this mixed paranormal genre of stuff that's becoming.
Where is that going to be held?
Vernal, dinosaur capital of the world.
Vernal what? What state?
Utah.
Vernal, Utah. Okay.
It's right near Dinosaur National Monument.
Okay.
Which is why the dinosaur thing is going on there. Every corner has this statue of some dinosaur. It's a tourist trap, the town.
Sure.
It's got bars, so you can go there and drink if you want.
When is that?
It's like the 6th of September starting.
Okay. So it's coming up pretty quick.
It is. I'm doing a follow-up to the Bigfoot alien connection reveal, except I'm adding superhuman to it.
6th of September. I'll have to see what I'm doing on the 6th of September. I can't remember, but
that's when we're premiering the movie, but it goes on till Saturday then.
Okay. Maybe I can zip over there and attend that conference. Spend some time with you guys, you and Alan. You going both of you?
Yeah, we can. We did an investigation on the edge of Skinwalker Ranch. Tom Winterton pinged a place where we could go and be right on the edge of the property. And,
I'm not sure I want to go on the edge of Skinwalker Ranch. I don't want to bring whatever that is back home with me.
Get the right attitude and it'll love you.
Because it ain't a Bigfoot, or at least not always. It's weird stuff. People have had so many weird things happen on that ranch.
Alan had a time slip, and you know what a REM pod is now, right? That device.
Yeah.
Goes off. We were out there for an hour and a half. It went off the whole time. Never had anything like that happen. And we saw a UAP fly across.
Wow.
Filmed it with thermal and regular camera.
You guys can research Skinwalker Ranch all you want.
This will be your introduction and awakening of that.
Oh, maybe
not in a big way.
Maybe, or I can get tumors on my head like that guy at Skinwalker Ranch got, which I don't really not ranch. Well, listen, it's been awesome, and for our audience, I'm working on a couple of interviews that people I've talked to recently that have some incredible stories. One single gal who was walking the Appalachian Trail by herself and had some phenomenal things happen. I'm hoping to see if I can get her next week or the week after, but the week I'm away on the horseback trip will be the week of the 21st, I think. And I'm going to have a pre-recorded show, and I'm going to play an interview that I did with the guy when your husband, Steph, Josh, and I did our first podcast. And this is a guy that had a face-to-face encounter 5 feet away for over 8 minutes with a Sasquatch, that I want you guys to hear that story. It's one of the most incredible stories I've ever heard of Sasquatch. So you can look forward to, even though I won't be here being your host that week, you're going to hear one of the most incredible stories of Sasquatch encounters. So it's been awesome. Thank you, Ron, for being with us. And,
my pleasure.
thank you, all of you, for tuning in tonight. Please encourage others to watch and to subscribe. And until next week, keep on squatching.